This is now day 8, Viva on the street, documenting in real time the Quebec lockdown and curfew that has been imposed on 8.5 million people in our province. Okay, you are way too heavy. Okay, I initially started doing this as a joke, as a gag, to keep myself sane in these insane times. I started off by finding the humor and the absurdity of the situation. The more questions I ask and the more answers I get, the more absurd and the less humorous this entire situation becomes. Let's just chart where we are right now. Day 8. Quebec is on not just a lockdown. The government has shut down non-essential businesses. Now we're on curfew. The lockdown started over what was supposed to be a 2-week period in December 2020. That is 10 months into the initial 2 weeks to flatten the curve of March 2020. The government says, we have too many cases of COVID. We have too many hospitalizations. We need to shut down non-essential businesses for 2 weeks, as if anybody thought it was only going to last 2 weeks. They allowed essential businesses to remain open, but they were only allowed to sell essential items, which means that they had to block off certain aisles that had non-essential items. Pure absurdity, to the point where I was actually in a pharmacy and the cashier refused to sell socks to a disheveled homeless man who came in asking to buy socks, and I swear to you, it was so absurd I thought it was a setup. He asked to buy socks and she said, we can't sell those because the government says they're non-essential items. And he lifts up his pants to show that he's not wearing socks in his shoes. And she says, I'm sorry, we're not allowed selling them. Because nobody wants to make a mistake. Because nobody wants to get fined by a government that's slapping hundreds of dollars of fines, if not thousands of dollars of fines, for non-compliance. Okay, where was I? So I started to document this. We went into not just lockdown, extended lockdown, but now curfew. Curfew. From January 9th to February 9th, prediction, it's going to go beyond February 9th, because when you enact unscientific methods to counteract a problem and they don't work, what do? You double down if you're the government. But whatever. Curfew from 8 in the evening until 5 in the morning for 1 month. The exceptions, dogs. Some of you had asked, are you allowed walking cats? We looked into it. The answer is no. Animals on a leash, the exception only extends to dogs, not cats, apparently not guinea pigs, rabbits, skunks, whatever. It also doesn't extend to husbands, as we've seen out of Sherbrooke in Quebec. A wife was walking her husband on a leash under the exemption of a dog on a leash. No go. $1,500 ticket each. So that's the absurd. This is where it gets tragic. We talked about the fact that the police had ticketed a homeless person for not respecting curfew. What do you see? A homeless person for not respecting curfew. And I remarked on it. I said, this is absurd. This is beyond what can be explained even in absurd times. It was an exceptional situation, apparently, whatever. It was a last resort, so they had to ticket a homeless person for not respecting curfew. You know what happened just today? If not, I think it was yesterday or today. A homeless person died in a porta potty, because the homeless shelter that they were staying at had to close at 9:30 at night because of the COVID lockdown restrictions. Raphael Andre was his name. He was asked to leave a homeless shelter at 9:30 at night because they had to close because of the lockdown, curfew measures, whatever. The homeless person was put out onto the street, the same streets where they were ticketing homeless people, and he sought refuge in a porta potty and died in a porta potty. A lot of you should be asking yourselves, what has brought our province to its knees like this? Like, I'm thinking, okay, what could possibly be so radical that we would forego the most fundamental civil rights and liberties of the citizenry? What is so crippling that it brought a province to its knees to lock down businesses, put people out of work, lock people in their homes from 8 in the evening until 5 in the morning? An increase in hospitalizations because of COVID infections. So I'm asking myself, okay, if these are the measures that we're imposing, how serious can it be? How many hospitalizations could we have to justify bringing a province of 8.5 million people to its knees? Take a guess. Before you answer the question, just think to yourselves for 5 seconds. How many hospitalizations are we experiencing as a result of COVID to explain what the government is imposing on us? 5, 4, 3, 2, One. How many? 8.5 million people. The hospitalizations from COVID, about 1,500. 1,500 in a province of 8.5 million has brought our province to its knees, to no longer respecting the most basic fundamental rights of individuals. Life, liberty, and happiness, to pursue their own jobs, to pursue their own lives. To the point where the government is authorizing police to issue tickets to homeless people, homeless shelters to kick homeless people out into the street because of curfew, so they die in porta potties. Because 1,500 hospitalizations has crippled our province. Our government has had a year to prepare for this, and apparently the ordinary flu stresses, if not overwhelms, our hospital systems every flu season. Our government has known that this alleged second wave was coming since the first wave came, because apparently it happens pretty much every year with the flu. Public healthcare systems, what do? Build up hospital systems, build up rooms, beds, doctors, train people, extra people to deal with the second wave? No. $13 million a month on COVID awareness. This ad with François Bellefeuille cost $585,000. A comedian from Quebec. His name is François Bellefeuille, by the way. In French, Bellefeuille literally translates into nice paper. And I have no doubt that ad was some nice paper. $585,000. $13 million a month for COVID awareness, because 1,500 hospitalizations is so radical, stresses our system so much to its core that we have to shut down people's businesses. We have to ticket homeless people. We have to kick homeless people out of shelters. We have to impose a curfew on a province. And imagine just, if a foreign nation that wanted to wage some form of conflict is watching this. And now they know that our system is so fragile, so inept to deal with 1,500 hospitalizations that this is all it takes to cripple an entire nation, the entire nation of Quebec. This is what is being done to us. Because 1,500 hospitalizations from COVID, that's not even ICU. From what I understand, it's a couple hundred ICU. And it's not to undermine the numbers. It's just to put the numbers into perspective. That if our system is so fragile, oh God, and incapable of dealing with this, COVID is actually not the problem. It's our government and our government's incompetence and our government's inability to prepare, protect, and take the proper precautions and to take the proper measures to deal with. Where are you going? When a government says 1,500 hospitalizations is going to be enough to shut down a province, curfew might not be the right response to that, especially since our health director, Horatio Arruda, said that there's no concrete scientific evidence to show the effectiveness of curfews to combat the spread of coronavirus. So what is it? It's effectively punitive, and they admitted as much during the announcement, where they basically said, it may not do anything, the curfew, but it will remind people of the severity of the situation. Let them know that we're still in serious risk of spread of the virus. That's nice to remind the population of the incompetence of the government. But I gotta tell you something. It is only the government that can punish the citizenry for its own incompetence and lack of preparation. It is inexcusable. It is indefensible. And what started off as humor is actually now just turning into outright critique. This makes no sense. And it is indefensible. It's indefensible. And if the government thinks that they're solving problems by doing what they're doing, they are only exacerbating other problems while distracting people from the actual problem. And that is pure government incompetence. Okay, I can't even think of ending this on a joke. Maybe, well, by the way, some good news is that she's actually starting to walk a little bit. She's getting some good movement there, getting some muscle, getting some... I didn't mean to do that, but look at that. That's some good walking right there. She suffered a slip disc. It's about 5 years ago now. And this is progress. I will have another update. Peace. Sorry, I actually forgot one other thing. I have a friend in Germany who tells me what's going on in Germany. In Germany, they prepared. They have over-the-counter 2-minute rapid testing that gives you results by email in 15 minutes. They haven't had a curfew. From what I understand, they haven't had a lockdown. Look at that progress of walking. Rapid testing costs, I think, 38 euros for the test. I don't know how many you can buy with $13 million a month. I suspect you can buy a few. Rapid testing so that people can know if they're infected. They can know what to do. They can get a response within 15 minutes. I know people who were COVID positive waited 2 days to get a positive result in our province. I'm not comparing just for the sake of comparing to see, look, who's done better. I'm comparing because there is a proper way of responding, and there's an improper way of responding, and an improper way of responding which does nothing but cover up your own incompetence. Okay, now I'm really done, and okay, I better pick her up. Peace.